Welcome back. Joining me on the program now is the former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Olisa Agbakoba. This issue of the Bakassi people, there's been so much in the news, from the sensible to the ridiculous, but I want to know, what should the country be doing with the Bakassi people who have declared independence?
The ICJ has issued a binding, compulsory decision against Nigeria that Bakassi is not part of Nigeria, it's part of Cameroon. So that's what it is. But you see, Olisa Agbakoba made a very interesting observation when the debate was raging in the Supreme Court. He said the way to solve this problem is simply to ask the Bakassi people, where do you want to be? And therefore, I think that the declaration of independence they have announced is an important signal of where they want to be. So the solution is going to be political. And certainly at the level of the Nigerian and the Cameroonian government and the Green Tree Peace Agreement, Nigeria ought to lead a very vigorous and robust diplomatic and political campaign to say to the Cameroon people, Bakassi would like to be with us, to reunite with us. How that plays out, I don't know, because as you very well know, the Bakassi Peninsula is very rich in natural resources, in particular oil, because it is the channel to the Gulf of Guinea. So it is difficult to answer whether it will be successful, but it's an important cry. They are Nigerians at the end of the day.
And this argument that the National Assembly did not ratify the Green Tree Agreement, and so it's not too late to back out of that agreement. Is this something that we can consider going forward?
No, you don't ratify the ICJ judgment.
Okay. Is it the Green Tree Agreement they didn't ratify?
They didn't ratify the Green Tree Agreement either.
Green Tree Agreement.
But the ICJ judgment, it's important to state that the ICJ is a creation of the United Nations. It's one of the specialized organs set up under Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter. And under the relevant articles, the ICJ exercises two types of jurisdiction: compulsory and advisory. And you have a choice to opt out of the ICJ exercising compulsory jurisdiction over you. Nigeria did not. When Nigeria submitted the case to the ICJ under ICJ's compulsory jurisdiction, and ICJ found against us. So that's the end of the matter. It doesn't require the National Assembly to ratify, because Nigeria is already a member of the United Nations. So the judicial process has come to an end with that decision, rightly or wrongly. The ICJ's opinion on this point is final. So the only other option is the one you described in your opening question, which is there anything Nigeria can do, given the fact that Bakassi people want to come back to Nigeria? That is political and diplomatic. And I think Nigeria should take advantage of that, process and open discussions with Cameroon.
The side issue of Cross River State and Akwa Ibom over the 76 oil wells, the Supreme Court has declared that Akwa Ibom State is not a literal state. And what's the potential effect of that judgment?
Well, the fact is that Cross River is now very poor because they've lost all the oil in the coasts. I personally view the decision as, it's not easy to criticize the Supreme Court because they're final. And being a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, I cringe and hesitate to desecrate that, judicial sepulcher. But let me dare and say that they ought not to have taken that case. I don't see what's political about the case. I don't see. It would have been more appropriate for the Boundaries Commission to adjust the boundaries. So even though the Supreme Court would have declared that Akwa Ibom is now landlocked, transferring the 76 oil wells for me is problematic. I think it's an administrative decision beyond the competence of the Supreme Court. The Boundary Commission has the responsibility under statute to deal with boundary adjustment.
Okay, not the Supreme
Not the Supreme Court. Boundary adjustment is the absolute problem. And in fact, there's a maritime commission, because I once worked for them, dealing with the extension of Nigeria's exclusive economic zone. So I know quite a bit about how the boundary commission works. So what it sounds to me as if we've gotten it all wrong, and that the boundary commission should have been the body charged with the responsibility of saying, given the Supreme Court pronouncing that Cross River is landlocked, how do we adjust the boundaries?
Let's move on to constitution reform. This issue of exclusive list, concurrent list, and the residual list, what should be where?
Well, I'd first say that I've watched the debate, even on your channel's TV and elsewhere, in Parliament, in the various governors' fora, and it's now down to a reform process of who should do what.
Yes.
I like to call power devolution. But before you get to who does what, as you know, Nigeria exercises in the Constitution about 68 heads of power under the exclusive list. So the federal government, to the exclusion of all other states, exercises 68 heads of power. Then the concurrent list, where the federal government has paramountcy, that they have supremacy, is another, I think, 33 or so, altogether about 100. So the state can exercise power in respect of something on the concurrent list, to the extent that the federal government does not pass a law that conflicts with that one. So the argument has been made a bit, in my view, mundane. There is a conceptual overhang that we've lost sight of. There are various types of political systems. The one we have known in Nigeria is called federalism. But there's also the unitary system, which works in the UK, for instance. To decide which system suits you is to ask yourself, why do I want to have a federal process? Now, a federal process works when you have diverse peoples living together.
Like we have in Nigeria.
Like we have in Nigeria. We have three fault lines. We have the religious fault line, the ethnic fault line, and the linguistic fault line. So when you have these types of fault lines, it is obvious to you that close living will be difficult. So what you do is you design a political process and system that gives each of the diverse peoples space. The first stanza of our old anthem, which I suddenly forgot, but I think it's though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. That's perfect. That is the absolute mantra for Nigeria's constitutional reform process. Those people who put that in there understood that we have to choose a political system that will make Nigeria stable. Now, that discussion has not occurred.
So it's a conceptual issue that we're missing.
Big conceptual issue. People who have written on the subject of federalism say that there are very many types. So there's no such thing, for instance, as Governor Fashola says,
true federalism.
True federalism doesn't exist. There is no one-size-fits-all federal process. In a country like India, where it is so large, and if you blink an eye, one state may disappear, they have a strong central electoral process. In America, where political culture is very strong, they are very strong about independence of municipal police, what we call state police. In Nigeria, where the political culture is not developed, there's a certain danger in state police. So, but before you start to pick and choose who does what, is to ask yourself, what conceptual type of federalism do we want? So once you agree that, then you move to step 2. Then step 2 is what I call legal pillars of federalism, which is the Constitution. So you first of all have developed a political pillar and agree the type of federalism you want. Then you go to step 2. So true federalism means nothing. I would say that the best concept I can think of for Nigeria is balanced federalism.
What does that mean?
It means that we have to balance out the inefficiencies of the federal government in doing technical things like issuing driver's license, like keeping people in prison, like issuing marriage license. There's so many mundane things at the federal government at that level that is absolutely unnecessary. So I will take all of that and transfer. First of all, I have to also ask, in the context of Nigeria's federalism, are we satisfied with 2 autonomous governments? Because there are 3, there is 4, there is 5. They are up to 6 autonomous sets of government, but we know generally 3. Do we need to strengthen the local government system so that we can give them things like refuse collection and things like issuance of basic permits,
marriage
licenses to do? So once you've gotten that out of the way, the technical issues will be the first set of powers to be devolved down the line. Then you go on to the more difficult things. There are some very, very difficult things. And as you then devolve, of course, time is going. So constitution reform is not an event. It's not switching on a light. It's a process that takes time. And therefore, in the last 200 years, America has only amended its constitution 67 times. India has done, I think, about the same 60. So I'm not one for a holistic amendment. It's not going to be possible because it's a process.
So it should be piecemeal instead.
Piecemeal, it should be as the moment throws itself up. And the other challenge we have, I think, in the discussion is who will do what.
Yes.
And I think we waste a lot of time because we're already discussing, what type of constitution we want. A national conference or a sub-national conference, as we call it in civil society, is not an event. It's a process. And we've been discussing this for quite a long time. So what I want to see in the discussion is more context. We need to ask the question, what is the type of federal system that would be suitable to Nigeria? And then go ahead to do the reform.
Now let's round up with this issue of the new Lagos traffic law rules. There are those who say that the rules are draconian, some of them, especially the punishment section. What are your impressions about this?
Draco was right when he passed off laws. Draco was actually a dictator in Greece. And because of his draconian laws, Draco became draconian. No, there's no easy answer. But one thing is clear. When you have a failure of systems and values, you need tough measures. So I salute Governor Fashola for taking tough measures. It may not always be right. For instance, I also salute his toll gate at Lekki. Without the toll gate, I felt he should have charged car tax. The essence is to raise money to pay for the road. So rather than have the toll gates, you simply ask people to pay more money on their car, because people buy car tax. They don't know that your vehicle license is your car tax. Okay. Do you have any idea how much you pay for your car? You see, that means you don't know. That means you're not paying much. I was paying 2,500 for my Jeep at a while. Now, if I was charged 10K, I'll be able to pay it.
Which you can conveniently afford.
Absolutely. So why not make it easy? That's the area that I disagreed with him on the issue of the toll. So, in analogy on this, conceptually I agree with him. Lagos is chaotic and riotous. Let me just talk about this poor lady who was very lucky to be charged with only reckless driving. The proper charge is culpable homicide. That's the proper charge. Culpable is attached to a person who is alleged to have assisted in the commission of an offense.
So even though she wasn't the one who knocked
Culpable.
down, yeah.
I used the word culpable advisedly. I didn't say murder in the first degree. I didn't say manslaughter. So the ingredients for reckless driving you can add culpable homicide. Somebody died.
Yes.
Somebody's responsible.
Yes.
So if she wasn't driving the wrong way,
the whole set of chain of events could have been avoided.
Absolutely. So that's culpable homicide. Now, when we have people like colonels in the army, supposedly well trained and disciplined, breaking basic rules, what do you expect? What do you expect? The only way to I've been a victim. One day I was just coming out in my car. Some stupid boy was coming and actually insulting me when he was on the wrong side of the road. So I was saying, what the hell is this? Suddenly I saw a soldier. I was very happy. The man said, "Oga, please, hey Joe," he is reversed backwards. Look at it. We need a tough hand. Whether the punishment should have been as severe is a different question. But if you do not, you cannot tame Lagos with lenient rules. Lagos and Lagosians and the drivers need Draco's laws.
Former president of the NBA there, senior advocate of Nigeria, Olisa Agbakoba, sharing his views on the Bakassi secession threat, the constitution reform debate, and the new Lagos traffic law rules. Some of the issues that have hogged the headlines and continue to generate varied reactions. If you haven't joined the debate, let's hear from you on any of those issues. Reach us via Facebook, Law Weekly on Channels TV, or via email, lawweekly@channels TV, or look for me on Twitter. My handle is @IamShola, and tweet me your comments, questions, or even suggestions. That's the program this week. Thank you for watching.